It's the HoopWise Podcast from New England Basketball Journal, a comprehensive look at the basketball landscape in New England, tracking prospects, recruiting, college, and more, with your hosts, Steve Hewitt and Ethan Fuller.
Hello, and welcome back to the HoopWise Podcast. I am Steve Hewitt, as always, joined by my partner in crime here, Ethan Fuller. Ethan, what's going on, man?
Well, happy holidays to everyone. We're
Happy holidays.
just after the break. I'm up in the friendly confines of New Hampshire. It's been good. It's been a little while since we last caught up, and we've had a lot of basketball to process since then. But yeah, I'm doing really well. I'm really, really excited. We're now in the thick of the season. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's been a good little break. I think you can attest, and I'm sure a lot of the prep schools can kind of attest. This break was kind of maybe needed. I know some schools have kind of only started their seasons recently, but for like maybe the Newmans and the New Hamptons who've been playing for a couple of months, they've got like 15, 16 games under their belt. This kind of comes at a nice time. I know games won't really start up for the boys' side, at least until maybe like January 8th, 9th, 10th, that weekend. So nice to get away for a little bit, but like you said, there's a lot we need to catch up on. A lot has happened in the last month of prep basketball. So this is what this episode will be. We're kind of catching up and a little bit of a checkpoint, I guess, in the season to talk about some surprising teams or players that have stood out to us. So yeah, I'm excited to catch up. We've been driving all around New England, a lot of games, a lot of events. Ethan, I know we'll start on the girls' side. Ethan, I know you were most recently, right before the break, you were at the Nickerson Showcase at Nobles, and you spent, God bless your soul, three days of full games, a full schedule. Wrote a lot of great stuff from there. I guess are you kind of recovered from that weekend? And what did you enjoy about the?
Yeah, I'm recovered and I loved it. So I felt kind of bad because the first day I went in on Friday. From little known fact about me, I don't know if I should be putting out this hot take this early. I love winter and I love a good snow day. So I got to Nickerson on Friday, and everyone around me was complaining about the drive, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? That rocked! Like I loved that." Then
we're gonna get to that day on the boys' side soon too, because
you had a more eventful Friday than I did.
You had a little more success with that snow day, but
but no, it was great. Like snow falling outside, basketball inside. That's all I need. And it was 3 days is the perfect amount for me. I watched that last game. I was splitting between, I was watching mostly Milton Academy and Brooks, and then it was Tabor and Worcester Academy. And after those games, I was like, I'm maxed out on the basketball, but it was like the perfect amount. All the teams were so good. Everyone talked about how Nickerson, especially this year, had such a good lineup of teams. And I agree. All the games I watched were great. Even the blowouts were largely because some specific players were having awesome days. And so even the blowouts were pretty interesting. A lot of great top 10 kind of matchups that really helped clarify at least parts of the power rankings that we do. A lot of big players that perform in front of must have been 20 plus colleges at least that popped in and out over the weekend. It was fun for me and network and chat with a lot of those coaches, kind of pick their brains on how they approach these tournaments. And just overall, I had high expectations. It met, if not exceeded them. It was so great. Yeah. Had a great time.
Yeah. So let's get into it. I know some teams impressed you, maybe at the top. We'll start maybe Tabor, the Nobles, Tilton. I know those three in particular were really impressive to you. If you go on basketballjournal.com, you can laid out some takeaways and a lot of standouts, but we'll get into a little more detail here. With Tabor and Nobles, obviously Nobles being the host, and I know they had a little bit of a scare on the first day, right?
Yes, that was a crazy game. Yeah.
What are your what were your kind of initial takeaways at the top of the power rankings? I know those teams kind of stayed at 1, 2, 3 in your power rankings, but what kind of stood out at the Nickerson with those teams in particular?
Yeah. So, like you said, Tabor 1, Nobles 2, Tilton 3. That has not changed since the preseason. We are now all eyes looking for this mid-January Tabor Nobles matchup that's going to happen. Can't wait for that. But anyway, that'll be a big one. But I guess kind of going down the line. So Tabor, I watched play. They played Loomis Friday, and then they played Wilbraham and Munson Saturday. And I watched a little bit of them playing Worcester Academy Sunday. Not a whole lot because I was trying to catch the other two teams that I hadn't seen yet. But Tabor kind of just, even though some of these games are pretty close, they've definitely been tested by a couple of these teams. They just are playing such a deep rotation right now, and it is kind of mind-blowing what they can do. So they have their big three. I mean, we've talked about them plenty. Cover of our last issue, Kaylin Carroll, Ava Black, Liv Rodriguez. I mean, they're just kind of doing their thing, not even really taking over games, but Carroll's hitting threes, running out in transition, driving to the basket really hard. You really get a sense of how strong she's become physically when she drives, and when she's like 6'2", 6'3", and long, like almost impossible to stop getting to the basket. So she's been really fun to watch. Ava Black, really, really great defender, hit 2 buzzer-beating threes at different points against Wilbraham and Munson in what was kind of a rout in that game. Tabor was just on one that Saturday. And then Liv Rodriguez, fantastic defense. They've kind of had her lead the charge against some of the bigs they've played against, and she's done a really, really good job. And then just with some of these teams, I want to highlight some of their role players. Corinne Lomax at Tabor is awesome, and I have been excited about her well before the season started. She comes off the bench right now, but plays a lot of major minutes for them, and it's just like a freight train driving the basketball, and is like a really strong 6 foot, legit, like probably 3-4 forward, and just you can't be stopped driving the basketball. Really great rebounder on a team that needs rebounders because they don't really have a true center on their team. So she's been great. And yeah, Tabor just their first substitution, it feels like most of these games are like a literal 5-player sub in, sub out. It's like hockey lines. It's crazy. So they're rolling. Loomis tested them. Loomis only lost by 9. Worcester Academy gave them a really good game, stuck around. I think they lost by 12, but so far nothing to really be like nervous about if you're Tabor. Yeah, so they're great.
It's funny to me that you're saying that these teams gave Tabor a run, but it still lost by 9 and 12. It wasn't like it came down to the last minute.
Yeah, nothing down to the wire yet. And then, so I'll move to Nobles. They did really get tested on Friday. A literal first game of the entire showcase was against Hoosac, who I had not seen at all, and I knew some of the player names, didn't know a lot about how they played. That was a fantastic game and a really good test for Tabor because Hoosac is they have an elite backcourt. Carolina Williams and Anna Moser, 2 of the best in NEPSAC, working together too. Carolina Williams had 26 in that game, just went ballistic down the stretch. And then they have a lot of physicality in the front court, a lot of size up front. And so that was a good test for Nobles to play against that kind of team. And they were able to pull it out.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
There was another buzzer beater in that game too to send it to overtime, if I'm not mistaken, or there was late basket.
It was a late basket. I forget exactly when it happened. I believe it was Carolina Williams again.
Of course.
But yeah, she just she had an awesome game. I felt bad I didn't put her for 5 stars because they lost the game, but she was so good in that game. And then Noble's able to take care of business. They win overtime pretty handily, end up winning the game by 9 overall. And then from there, they just they roll past Loomis Chafee, who did lose their top player, Alicia Mitchell, sprained her ankle in the Tabor game. Not major from what I've been told. I think she'll be back pretty soon, but they didn't play her the rest of the weekend, so that hurt Loomis a lot. So Nobles rolled in that game, and then rolled New Hampton too. I thought that was the most telling game. Christina Pham, who it is ridiculous what she's doing right now. Scores 28 in that game, and I sit with a lot of it kind of mixes. Like I'll try to sit with college coaches some games, sit with other writers some games, but sometimes I'll just sit in the crowd around like some parents. And so I was sitting with the mom and 2 girls of her daughter who was going to be in the next game on Worcester Academy, and They were just, watching this game before their own game. And it was like every time Bam like made some ridiculous shot, they're like, no way, like how does she keep doing this? And then she makes another and another, and it's just like it's crazy. She's got to be the highlight reel player to start the season. And it's the threes, it's the driving and finishing through contact at her size, it's the handle, it's the like pull up jumpers in the mid range that she'll get to a little bit. It's like the complete scoring package at this point. I don't know how anyone's even gonna try and stop her.
Have you? I think you saw a little bit of her last season, right?
Yeah.
But has she like noticeably improved in certain areas to you, or in terms of
think it's
being
a
a complete
combo.
player? Or
Yeah, I think it's a combo of she's definitely improved being able to get all the way to the rim and finish through
Yeah.
contact. She's done that. It feels like every game she's has like 2 or 3 and 1 layups. So that's been much improved. I think she is a lot better just kind of dictating pace when she has the ball in her hands. And I think it's a role change too. Like last year, Nobles was so good that she didn't even need to be the point guard that much. She was like much more of a kind of JJ Redick type of floor space, like run around and shoot threes all the time, like a Klay Thompson. But
yeah,
this year she is much more ball dominant, and I think it's really impressive. So yeah, obviously I'm highlighting her, but Nobles, their big threes rolling. Jasmine Cooper doing her thing. I think it is underrated how good she is because she never is in takeover scorer mode just because she doesn't need to be. She is ranked in the top 50 of the country for a reason. It's because she doesn't do anything badly, and she's defending point guards and centers literally days apart and defending them both well. She's just unbelievable. And then Ashley Dingus too. Some of the closeout blocks and chase and like recovery blocks in rotation have been awesome from her. So that's Nobles. I'll give them a role player shout out. Bryn Bryant, who if I'm looking at this right, they're kind of mix and matching. Sometimes she'll start, sometimes she'll come off the bench, but she's been one of the best guard defenders in NEPSAC and I think people have known about that. I'll give a shout out to Bash Hudson because he was really hyping up her defense before the season, and I didn't know too much about her. But her defense has been unbelievable, and that's a game changer when they have role players who can step up. That was the big question for Nobles is like, what does their depth actually look like this year? And so,
right.
Bryn Bryant, Vanessa Ellis, rebounding machine, those two have really helped change a lot and should make Nobles feel a lot better about just kind of how far they can go with the supporting cast too. So
yeah,
Nobles rolling. Tilton went 3-0. I only saw one full game from them. I'd watched them play earlier in the season. I watched them play Nobles and lose. I watched them beat Wilbraham Munson pretty good, and then I watched bits and pieces of them beating Northfield Mount Herman, which was that was a 3-4 matchup for us. So really good win for them. The only thing I will say for Tilton right now is Bella Kukuda is if Christina Pham is number 1 shooter in NEPSAC, I'm pretty firm on that take at this point. Kukuda is like really making a case for herself as 2. She's started to like feel better about the pace of play, getting into her shots a little bit better, and she is a really good shooter. So it looks good. So yeah, those are the 3. It's like I don't know how you touch those 3 at this point. They're just in a stratosphere of their own right now.
Yeah. And I think you wrote that maybe Nobles and Tabor, maybe a slice above Tilton.
I think so. Just they have
want to like rank
head-to-head
them,
wins. Yeah. So it's probably those 2 in the 1A. Tilton's kind of the 1B, and then you get down to the field after that.
Yeah. And I think you wrote a lot of coaches talking about Tilton. We're kind of hyping them up and talking about their potential as sort of maybe a dangerous player in class AAA. Can they? I mean, we've talked about this before in terms of who can challenge for the title in there, and Tilton's definitely in the conversation. But what did the weekend maybe show you about their legitimacy as one of the favorites in that class, and their ability to knock off Nobles and Tabor possibly down the line?
I think of the 3, Tilton has the most just like year-over-year adjustment to do. Obviously, everyone knows about Anae Adams graduating. They also brought in a ton of transfers or not a ton, but they brought in some transfers who are playing really important roles right away, like Bella. So I think the adjustment early season is larger for them than the top 2 teams. And so that should make them feel good that like they hung with Tabor and Nobles in both their games, and so there's kind of more upside and room for growth with them, you would think. And they have a lot of really, really strong defenders on that team. I'll kind of skip ahead. I know I was going to talk about some underrated players, but on Tilton, Brooke Golden is their center, and she's 6'3". I haven't gotten to give her enough love in the writing I've done yet, but she's a kind of ridiculous running and jumping athlete for her size. Really, really long, more of a slender build for a center, but she can shoot it. Relentless rebounder. She played some really good defense on some of the centers that Tilton faced over the course of the weekend. So the upside is there. I think it's just going to take more time for them to have the offense gel and have a lot of the other pieces fit. But absolutely, I would believe by late February and March, they are like legitimate contenders to knock off Tabor Nobles.
Yeah. All eyes on that. You mentioned that mid-January matchup. Tabor
Yeah, I believe that's
Nobles.
Oh gosh,
I think I just looked it
17th.
up, actually. I think it's the 17th, straight before football weekend.
Yeah,
or is that during football weekend?
Yeah, it's gonna be a crazy weekend for us. But I'm so excited for that game. I think you could. Again, we're
gonna make that trip, right?
I will absolutely. I've done the Tabor drive. I'm a vet with the Tabor drive, so I'll make that trip. And
I think I may need to join you for that.
Yeah,
if there's no
it's a legit
boys game that night.
Yeah, I know I've had Tabor won the whole way, and so I guess by default I'm going to have to pick them in the game, but that's a legit 50-50 game. Like,
yeah,
totally you can go either way. Tabor probably has the home court and kind of court advantage, but you throw it up either way you want.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. And that's weeks down the line, so I'm sure we'll be talking about that matchup if it gets closer, and we'll see where the teams stand at that point. I do want to make a mention of Husak, because you mentioned them. They weren't really maybe on your radar, but they jumped straight into your power rankings. A little spoiler on Ethan's latest Knapsack Girls power rankings. Husak is in there. I won't give away where they are. But they went from not ranked to into power rankings, I guess. And that they obviously gave Nobles a really good run there. What did you see from them? What impressed you the most from them? I think Carolina Williams, obviously.
Yeah.
Was impressive. Yeah.
She was awesome. And for her, I think she's going to UNH, by the way. Known as a really good defender, puts a lot of effort in as a point of attack defender, but she just has like confidence, unlike most other guards that you see. And it makes sense that she's a senior now and is able to do that. But the way she just kind of attacked the basket and scored at the end, she hit a couple of big threes too. It was more of the total package than I realized, and just like owned the moment. And that was really cool. Anna Moser, who played by the standards I know her of, she played fine. But that, for her to be a 2027 guard and have fine be the way to describe how she played, which was still like, she is so fast. I don't know how else to describe it. Like, literally everything she does is 1,000 miles an hour. And the fact that she can do that and still be under control like 85 to 90% of the time is ridiculous. Such a good shooter, making passing reads, getting to the second level of defense in a way that I didn't expect from a player in her class. So that's really cool. And then they have like Ava Mamone. I wasn't able to really give her much of a shout out because I missed her best game. They beat Rivers. That was a good win for them on Sunday. She played really well. Uliana Doranina, another kind of long guard wing, very skilled. She played well. They just they defend really tough. And again, like when you have the combination of size and team defense, and you have two players who can kind of take over and score, that's such a great combination. And they really weren't in my rankings. I slept on them, like, definitely. But they also played this kind of bizarre schedule where they played Montverde Academy, and no other team is playing Montverde Academy. And then I believe they played Winston-Salem Christian, who was also like a national powerhouse. And like they lost those games pretty bad, but I guess like I just didn't have a really good gauge of how they were going to be when they got into NEPSAC, and this proved plenty. So I'm excited to see now that they'll be playing more of the NEPSAC opponents, how they do.
Yeah. Well, maybe a potential spoiler in AAA though.
I mean, they have to. All the teams make the playoffs, so someone's got to play them. It's gonna be hard. Yeah.
And you never know. One game playoff You never know what can happen. Before I know you have some players that you want to mention from the weekend, but one thing that caught my eye is this Worcester Academy New Hampton game
Mhm.
at Nickerson. So tell me about this game. Worcester
It was crazy.
is crazy. Just reading what you wrote, Worcester went up 20-5, and then New Hampton kind of flipped the table on them and went up 46-33. And I guess this can kind of get into your players because I know you wanted to mention some New Hampton players.
Yep.
And then Worcester almost came back from 13 down to win. What happened in this game?
So I don't entirely know because I was watching
Okay.
I believe it was Tabor Loomis, and that game kind of ran long. And so I leave that game and I go to the other gym. If you haven't been at Nobles, these two gyms are like, you don't even have to leave the complex. They're right next to each other.
Yeah.
So I go
think
over
it's
that
just down-
game.
Down some stairs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of expecting New Hampton to win. This is going to be my first time watching them this season. So I'm like, all right, this will be interesting. And I look at the score and it's 17-5 Worcester Academy. And I'm like, what I miss. And so our photographer, we freelanced, Annette Grant, she killed it, by the way. Shout out to her.
Yeah, shout out on that.
She had already moved over and was shooting some of the game. And so we were talking a little bit about what happened. And then we gets to 20-5. Then I don't know exactly when the run started, but it totally flips. And New Hampton, like very slowly is grinding away. Their defense totally locks down. And New Hampton is up 46-33, like early in the fourth quarter. And then Worcester Academy, again, I put them in the team takeaways because everyone I talked to loves what Worcester Academy is doing. So credit to them. But Worcester Academy battles back down 46-33 and loses by 2 in that game. And it was just a unbelievable like game of runs like I've never seen before. And so that was really cool. The only player who was kind of consistent that entire game, one of my favorite players I watched in the entirety of Nickerson was Elise Ngenda on New Hampton. She is one of the, I don't know if I've talked about her on the podcast before, but one of the top 2026 girls prospects, 5'9", 5'10" guard who just has like scoring IQ on like an elite level, top tier in knapsack. She just never takes a bad shot, never is like forced into a bad turnover, never feels like she's sped up. Whether it's like little pull-up elbow jumpers, just kind of quick drives to the basket because she's really strong too. She'll step out. She doesn't shoot a lot of threes, but she's a good three-point shooter. Who can just kind of step out and knock down a three. She had a great weekend. And I was really excited to watch Serenity Lancaster too, who's been arguably the most highly touted transfer into knapsack this entire season. She definitely, it was kind of a bumpy weekend for her, but she still was able to impact the game, even though teams are designing their entire defensive game plans around stopping her already. So that was cool to see. Worcester Academy did a really good job with their defensive game plan. A lot of that game. I'll credit Ella Getz again, who I've seen twice now. And I'll tip my own hat a little bit here. I had her on the breakout players list, and she's been one of, if not the breakout player of the season in knapsack. Has been
Pat from the bag. Let's go.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah,
We're
she's
allowed
been
to do
awesome.
it.
She was the centerpiece of that defensive game plan, and she can score in a lot of cool, versatile ways too, as a 6'1" forward. So I'm excited to see the rest of her run. But that was the game. It was mind blowing. Really fun game. We had a lot of fun games, but nothing of that like extreme level of swing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Crazy. Let's shift maybe into some other players that you want to shout out. I know if you go on basketballjournal.com, Ethan wrote 24 upperclassmen that stood out to him and 10 underclassmen who stood out to him at Nickerson.
It's a lot. I made some cuts. I feel
lot.
bad about some of the players I cut. Yeah.
And I think you still added some more kind of honorable mentions even at the bottom of those. So check those out. But which players in particular do you want to shout out here and in terms of who stood out maybe the most to you that maybe isn't getting a lot of love or maybe is flying under the radar from some of the stars? But
Sure. Yeah. So I guess in the interest of time, I'll kind of package Nickerson specific with some of the general underrated players that I've gotten to see because I
Yeah.
I've watched a couple of these like showcase type events at this point over the last month. And so let me go to my list here. So first, without a doubt, I think people have already heard me hype her up so much. I am such a fan of Zaria Otley, who is a uh, Northfield Mount Herman 2027 guard. She transferred in there. Was last at South Shore Christian. Before that, Rockland High. She's from Rockland. She is a hooper. In like, I have no player comp for her. She is a 5'7" like combo guard who is very like stout and well built, but her handle is awesome. Her shooting touch is crazy. And it feels like over the course of a game, I probably watched 3 different games where she's like, okay, in the first quarter, she's starting to figure it out. And then third and fourth quarter, she is like taking over these games with just like spin moves, crossover step backs in the mid range, like post fadeaways as like a guard. She's 5'7", and she's like winning rebound battles. And again, she's really strong, but then she's throwing like 1 or 2 flashy passes a game. And I'm confused in a lot of ways because she's such a unlike any player I've ever seen that I don't know how to project like college fit or even like what her like ultimate player archetype is, but she is so fun. And I don't really even have the words to describe how when I'm watching her score like a step back crossover 3 or like a post fadeaway on the baseline, they're like 2 entirely different players, but it's her. And so, and she's really smart too. I want to give her a lot of credit because she among probably anyone else. She's 2027.
Okay.
Yeah. So she did, I believe she reclassed, but
Okay.
yeah, really, I'm just excited to see like what happens next with her because she's so fun to watch. NMH in general, I think a lot of they're a really good team, and I think people know that at this point, but I think a lot of their individual players as college prospects get kind of underrated. So Grace Minahan has been arguably their best player of the entire season. She's a post-grad transfer. I think she's been awesome. Brina Hannon is kind of in a similar vein to Zaria, like does all these little connector things. She's 2026. I like her. Olivia Fleming is the most known player, and she's been great too. But she's on a good track with the Division I interest she's getting already. And then a couple of other underrated players. I mentioned Brooke Golden. Let's see. These were not Nickerson players, but Athena Thompson at Putnam Science. I've written about her already. She was one of the many, many international players. She's from the UK. She's been probably their best player to start the season. She's gotten a bunch of Division I mid-major interest. I know she's talking with Oklahoma State. I don't know if that has led to an offer yet, but just that she's kind of having those phone calls is cool. And she's just a really great two-way guard. Impacts the game with her defense and length in a ton of different ways. Super smart player too. And then I'll shout out to Eliana Scalabrini at Newman. And Newman is a team that they might feel slighted by me not ranking them yet, and I would understand that. I've been really patient with them because I want to see who they're playing and kind of see how it looks. But Scalabrini, legit, I watched her at Dover Sherburne, and I always thought she was solid. She has taken a total leap with Newman, and in a way where she's running the offense in a lot of ways, shooting threes off of movement in ways that I didn't realize she was able to do. Looks so confident, driving and making plays for others, but like being the centerpiece in a lot of ways of that team. So I'll give her a shout out too. I think she's flown under the radar, and I'm really excited to see Newman. They have a couple of really good games, and again, they're in Boston, so they're easy for me to get to. I'm going to try and check out a couple of their games in January, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, she's learning from the best. So
yeah, Scal was assisting that Tabor game. And that was a great game. They lost by 1 to Putnam Science. So those 2 players were both really good.
Yeah, awesome. Is there anything else from the girls' side that's kind of stood out to you in the kind of opening weeks, I should say, or opening months ish of the season? Or
generally, it's been really fun. I feel like I've gotten to see a lot of teams in a very short amount of time, just with how efficient these showcase lineups are, which is great. I will also shout out, I know we're probably not going to get into a ton of MIA talk, and we're going to have more because NEPSAC's on break, so we're going to do that later. But I do want to shout out, I've been to a couple of MIA games, seen some of the best of the best prospects already. Bella Owumi, Again,
Yep.
she's another player where like the leaps are happening, and it's really cool to see. She is the best kind of pure athlete in MIA among the top prospects. I don't think it's particularly close. She is just like making block plays and defensive plays and scoring moves that I don't even want to limit it to MIA. Like few prospects in New England are doing right now. That Bishop Feion and St. Mary's game that I saw on the 17th was probably the best basketball game I've seen of the winter season so far. It was so good.
Wow. Yeah.
Fantastic game, close the whole way. I'll shout out the Bishop Feion backcourt, Charlotte Adams Lopez, and Maddie Steele doing their thing. Both of them, Maddie Steele catching fire behind the arc, Adams Lopez doing everything on defense, passing, being assertive as a scorer down the stretch. And then only other MIA player I'll shout out, Nia Enigari at midfield. Similar vein to Owumi where the leaps are happening, and she just it looks so easy for her to run offense and run that team now. And that's really cool to see for her as a sophomore. So yeah, that's all the girl stuff. It's been fun. Really great. I feel like the efficiency and like use of time, and I'll credit the schedule makers and the basketball gods on that. It's been so easy for me, and I love that. It has not been easy for you. I don't know if I can send it to the boys, but
for the most part, it's been easy.
I mean, you want to start with
showcase weekends.
Yeah, your crazy weekend. I felt a little bad because I was having a blast.
Just a crazy like 3. Yeah, as Ethan was what was this, the 20th?
Yes,
December 20th, that Friday. As Ethan was enjoying his girls' basketball, I was in the wilderness of Boston trying to make my way through. I guess I'll preface this by saying this is want to start the boys segment. I guess shout out to Williston Northampton. Ethan,
yes,
I think I owe an apology to their program. And I kind of wrote this the first time I wrote about them, is like I wasn't like, I owe you guys an apology. I was not familiar with the game, like that meme, because I don't think I mentioned them once in the preseason, and I was trying to think back to our podcast with Brad. I don't think Wilson came up, but they have exceeded all of my expectations. I did see them a little bit at the Knapsack Showcase over the summer, and I think they might. I'll have to do more work on this, but I don't think maybe they had the full roster there, so they didn't maybe catch my eye as maybe they should have. But they have been crazy good, and it's showing up nationally. Like they're in the top 15, 20 of like the national prep rate rankings that come out every week.
Yeah.
And they're a Class A team. That's hard to break in there. So I saw them first at Zero Gravity, the Prep Classic, first weekend of December. They played Bridgeton, which is up 2 classes, killed them. It was just like not even close. They ended up winning by 15. And I'm like, okay, wow. Like this team's legit. Preston Edme, their point guard, is going to Hofstra. He's electric. He's a little undersized, but he doesn't play like it. It's like he's just a fearless kind of kid. Gets into the paint, can shoot from deep. Like he was hitting some crazy deep shots. They have this kid Ricardo Nieves, who's going to Tufts. And I think Tufts got a little bit of a steal with him. I think he is maybe, obviously he's probably going to stick with his Tufts commitment, but he's probably like he could probably be a D1 player from what I've seen. Just great, really good shot maker. He's tough defensively. And then this kid Ashton Reynolds, who has really popped over the first couple weeks of the season. He's from Brooklyn. He's a 6'3" guard. He can bounce out of the gym.
Dang. What you
and he's a 2025.
Okay.
So for whatever reason, his recruitment has just not been there. Ben Farmer, their coach at Williston, is doing an amazing job with this team. Told me that, and this might have changed since the last time we spoke a couple weeks ago, but that Ashton has not received a committable offer, and which was like a shocking thing for me to learn. Because this kid is a D1 player, no doubt. Like at least mid-major level. Like he has high major athleticism. with the way he can jump and some of the dunks that he was putting down, like alley-oops, breakaway dunks, breakaway like tomahawks. I was like, holy crap, this kid. But he just makes winning plays on both ends. Ton of blocks, gets on the glass, gets into you defensively, like does just all the little things. And then they played Tabor a week after that prep classic. And Tabor's good. Like I hyped Tabor up in the preseason. They have Dottie Quinn, kid going to East Carolina, and they have a lot of really good pieces around him. And I think they're still a Class A kind of front runner and a team to watch for. Obviously, they're very dangerous. But Williston beat them by 30. And
Man.
Speaking of my travel issues, I got to that game a little late because of the traffic getting to Holy Cross at that showcase a couple weekends ago. But I saw the second half. I forget what the exact run was that Williston came out. They were up by like 13 at halftime, and they blew it way open. They went up by like 41 at one point. Just kind of playing like a different sport almost. Like no discredit to Tabor, like very good, but Williston was just playing on another level with their pace and their style. Just I don't think Tabor was up for it that day for whatever reason. So Williston is like just legit, man. Like I encourage anyone in the area to try to find the time to watch them because they are fun to watch. And I was really looking forward to they were scheduled to play Phillips Exeter, of course, the defending Class A champion, with Ryder Frost leading down the star of the show there, Notre Dame commit. We've talked a ton about him. And that game unfortunately got postponed because of the snow that Friday, as you were enjoying your Nobles games.
I'm sorry.
A quick aside, it took me 2 hours to get from Somerville to Dexter Southfield, where the game was going to be played as part of the Class A showcase that weekend. They had 3 different sites for the Class A showcase, and one of them was at Dexter. And Williston and Exeter were supposed to play that night. Got postponed. I got into the gym. Actually, so I got stuck in the ice at one point in Brookline. It was just a chaotic scene. Finally got to Dexter maybe a half hour before the game was supposed to start. I was planning to get there a little early to watch the earlier game that was being played. Didn't see that game. Watched the tail end of that. But got to Dexter. Parking lot was kind of empty, so I'm thinking to myself, oh God, this game get like postponed or canceled, and like no one told me. So I'm like bracing myself mentally as I walk into Dexter's gym. I see Exeter warming up on one side. I'm like, okay, at least one team is here. Shout out Exeter assistant Harry Rafferty. Walked in, I locked eyes with him. He comes over to me. He's like, dude, I don't think this game. I don't know if this game's gonna happen. Williston got stuck in extreme traffic coming from Northampton. I guess I was texting with Ben, the head coach. I guess there was a major tractor trailer accident, and their GPS and their GPS ETA just kept going up and up. I think the game was originally scheduled for 5:30, and they weren't going to be getting there till like 7:30. Just getting there, and then they would have to obviously warm up for the game. Yep. So it just wasn't going to happen. Luckily, everyone got there safely to Dexter. Williston had another game the next day, but a major bummer that game couldn't happen, because I think, and no disrespect to any other teams in Class A, but Exeter, Williston, probably opening weeks, I was like, okay, these are the 2 teams that are probably the front runners right now. There are a few other teams I think definitely in the mix for that, but to have that matchup early in the season and I know both teams are really excited for that game, for it to not to happen was a major bummer.
Yeah.
But, and I don't think it's going to get rescheduled, because that's a hard, those 2 schools are not close to each other, and it's just kind of hard to fit that into the schedule when it's already been set for the next couple months. So we might have to wait till maybe the Class A playoffs. If we can get that matchup there, that would be electric.
Yeah.
I really want to see that game.
Yeah.
But shout out Williston. They cracked into my power rankings a couple weeks ago. And they're legit. And this is looking way far ahead, but they play Newman at the end of February. I want to say it's like February 26th, and it's at Williston. So Newman's number one in my power rankings. They're AAA, like nationally ranked. Like obviously, we talked a ton about Newman.
Yeah.
But that's a game I'm looking forward to.
Okay.
And obviously that's a couple months away now, but Williston is that good.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm not predicting an upset or anything. I think Newman would obviously be favored in that kind of game, but that's gonna be a fun matchup. So,
Yeah,
but
that's exciting though.
That's looking far. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's looking far down the line.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think it's exciting to have a true breakout team in that way. And Husak is kind of like that for me, but
Yeah.
I think Williston's even a more extreme example of like they just have all these pieces clicking at the right time, and that's really fun.
Yeah.
Who else? So you've talked to me about I mean,
Yeah.
we obviously talk so much, but some of these players that we've talked about that you mentioned as newcomers or just like rising stars, I want to first ask about Alex Egbuonu, who it feels like every, I don't know, 5 days you're sending me some crazy stat line that he has. And I know you've gotten to see him a couple times at this point. So tell me,
He's
can you
a
like paint the
monster,
picture
man.
for me?
Yeah. I mean, he's just like he's built like an NFL like linebacker in some ways. He's just 6'6". I think he's listed at 220.
Man.
I don't know what he really projects at the college level positionally right now. He's a 2026, so he's got a little more development to do. But he's like a 6'6", and I described him as this in an article. It's just like a 6'6" freight train. But he has like all, and he's obviously big, but he has like all the skills of like a guard. Like if he is in transition so much with the ball in his hands. A lot of what Lawrence Academy does is through Alex, obviously, for a lot of reasons. Their starting point guard is out, Evan Michener, with a stress fracture right now. So hopefully he's back soon. But a lot of what they do is through Alex. And there's so many plays where he just gets the defensive rebound and he's just like hunting, like, I want to say he's like hunting a poster, like like he just takes the ball coast to coast. Like I just expect him to do that every time he gets the ball. And there have been a few of those kind of highlight reel plays where he just posters some poor kid on the other side. But incredible shot maker. Defensively, he's crazy good. Like he had the stat line, 26 points and 7 blocks in a game against Winchendon at the Prep Classic. He was named the MVP of the Prep Classic. High major offers are rolling in. He has Marquette. Boston College just came in with an offer. You're going to hear a lot about Alex Egbuonu over the next year. He's a 2026, plays on BABC's top team. I'm excited to see kind of how he continues. He has like 3 or 4 already 30-point games.
Yeah.
And Lawrence is dealing with a lot of injuries, so like a lot is being relied on Alex right now. But he's still producing. Like even if the results aren't there with wins and losses right now for Lawrence, and I know they're kind of going through a tough time right now with some injuries. But Alex continues to produce on both ends. So he's just been an absolute monster.
That's exciting.
I know, super exciting to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like these full box scores that you're showing me are crazy.
I know.
I know we're pretty much hitting the time window here, so I'll give you a last shout. You want to give any quick shout outs to other quick players that have become on your radar since you've started in the last, it's been 2 months for you.
Yeah. I think we both saw him in the preseason at Newman, Lucas Morello.
Yeah.
I know you loved him especially. He's been fun to watch. Just another kind of stat stuffer of points, rebounds, assists. He's just everywhere. He kind of runs the offense there for Newman. Makes the right plays. A lot of people have made a comment about like maybe he's not the most athletic kid in the world, and maybe that's prohibiting him from getting like the highest of high in terms of scholarships at high major level.
Yeah.
But he just got Iowa. I don't think his athleticism hasn't really mattered to this point, because he just makes all the right plays, like all the right winning plays. He's just a guy that you want on your team, especially a team like Newman that has high aspirations that they do. Payton Kamin at Worcester Academy has been not, I don't want to say a surprise, because I kind of heard about him a little bit in the preseason. But he just had 37 points in a game against Winchester. But shout out Worcester Academy coach Jamie Sullivan, who I talked to in the preseason. He was like, make a note, like, this kid is going to go off for 35 at least in a game at one point this season. And he spoke that into existence, 37 points.
Yeah, that was cool to read.
Like I said.
Yeah.
So another uncommitted 2025. He's one of the best scorers I've seen. 3-level, super aggressive, really good shooter. Can do kind of everything on offense. His teammate at Worcester Academy, we've talked a lot about him, Amir Jenkins, has translated to the NEPSAC level resoundingly well. He and Alex, both 2026 BABC kids, I expect them to be on the next national rankings for 2026, because their stock just keeps going up and up and up. And then I want to make a shout of Christian Mouse Williams at Kimball Union, another uncommitted 25. He just had 30 points in a win over Cushing at basketball right before the break. Really fun player to watch on both ends, really kind of a defensive menace, but can also shoot the three. And then Ryan Mesh, we talked a bit about him in the preseason too at Cushing. Just electricity whenever he has the ball in his hands. It's like controlled chaos and fearless. Like I've written every adjective in the book about him. And I'm really excited about him. Another 2026 at Cushing, who I know Brad Feldman at Super Preps, who we had on the podcast, had said this, but I would pay money to watch him play. Like, he's just like that good. He's just that much fun to watch. So I definitely want to make a shout out to those players. And then I don't know, we're definitely not going to have enough time to talk about everything that I've seen in the first 2 months. And I apologize to all the boys programs and players. It's just impossible to mention everything that's happened in the first 2 months. And we'll eventually get to everything throughout the season. But there were 2 buzzer beaters over the last couple weeks that I definitely want to mention, that were both like ridiculous buzzer beaters too. Like, not just like run of the mill, like no buzzer beaters run of the mill, I guess. But like, these were like really tough shots that these kids made. And our producer, you can pull up these videos that I sent you. The first one here, this is Milton Academy not basketball, but at the Holy Cross Showcase, NERR a couple weeks ago. Shout out to NERR, still there for this video. I was not there this day, but Milton Academy's Reese Ayala hit a buzzer beater, and you can play it, Yaz, from just above half court. Here it is.
Right off the inbound too. That's crazy.
Right off the inbound. So then there's the celebration. His teammates mobbed him. A little context to that buzzer beater. The original play was not meant for Reese. The play before that, they had Ryan McLaughlin coming off the screen. He got blocked. So with 1.4 seconds left, this was a tie game. With 1.4 seconds left, Milton did not have any timeouts after that block, so they kind of had to scramble a little bit. And as I was told, sort of explained, here it is again. They had about like 3 or 4 different variations of the play with different options coming off screens and what have you. But Reese kind of found himself open right there. And Jack Watson, his teammate, found him. He just had to kind of throw it up and Reese told me that it felt good right off his hands. And I think he said something to the effect of like, I am him or something like that. I don't want to put
Let's
for
go.
the celebration, but Milton has impressed me early. I know they lost a lot from last season, but I think they're 4-2 or 5-2 going into the break.
Mhm.
A lot of youth there. So Milton's been fun to watch. And then this buzzer beater, another buzzer beater. This was a couple of days before Governor's Academy's Momo. I'm going to butcher his last name, Nakugwa. He's committed to Vermont. This was Governors was down to Middlesex here with 3.2 seconds left, as you can see there on the scoreboard. They had to go length of the court, and yeah, as you can play it here, this is a crazy shot.
Oh, off one leg is
Running buzzer beater.
yeah. Going towards the basket too. That's hard. Like it's hard to
That's all.
think that up.
Yeah, so that's a super hard shot. Probably a little harder than Reese's, even though it was deeper. But just two kind of incredible buzzer beaters that deserve some recognition and some shout outs. As you can see, the teammates go crazy as well.
Yeah.
So Governor's another fun team to watch. I just saw them at the Rivers Holiday Tournament. They went 2-1 there. I believe it was 2-1. I have to double check that, but they're a good team, and some exciting players there. Thomas Ferdinando, great shooter, going to Babson. Momo, obviously going to Vermont. So another team to watch in Class B. Yeah, I don't know if we have any more time. Do you want to make a couple quick shouts before we go?
Go for it.
Yeah. Dexter Southfield has been, I don't want to say a surprise, but they've been impressing a lot of people. There's a lot of buzz around them with Matt Droney, the first year head coach. I want to say, I think they only have a couple losses as well. They gave Exeter a really good game at Exeter. Malik Adamson, one of their new point guards from Burke, transfer from Burke, 2027 guard, has been really impressive defensively and offensively in both ends. They always have Sam Hughes, BU commit. Latif Afalobi is really good as well. So they're going to be a player in Class A from what I've seen. Tilton, they won the Blackburn Invitational over Worcester Academy, which is really impressive. Tilton, that surprised me a little bit. Anthony Vick, their 2027 guard, who's we're going to hear a lot about the next few years, had some big shots, really good shot maker. Enzo Baduma, 36-13 in the championship win.
Wow.
He's a 2025 big that a lot of people don't know about. His recruitment's pretty low, but I've seen Tilton a few times. He's really impressive. Kind of a switchable 6'8", forward, big, can move, is really active, can get to the rim, can shoot. So keep an eye on Tilton. And then I want to make a shout out to a couple coaches. Mike Hart at St. Andrews won his 600th game right before the break. Went over Navy Prep. It was funny, before the season, he was like, he was really close to 300 losses as well. He's like, I really hope I get to 600 before I get to 300 losses. So he was able to do that. He got to 600. So congrats to Mike. And Tom Espinoza, Putnam Science, won his 500th game. So shout out to Tom, who's done a phenomenal job with Putnam Science, making them kind of a national power over the last at least 5 years. They won a few prep national championships with him, and they have another really good shot this season as well. So shout out to both of those two coaches for some incredible milestones.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you can tell, this is a lot of basketball. And we didn't even hit on kind of everything. So
yeah, there's a ton I didn't hit on. I apologize.
That's just the first like month or two, and we got January is going to be crazy. We'll be a little bit more regular with our check-ins too, so be on the lookout for those. And yeah, we'll see you in 2025. Let's go. It's going to be a big year for hoops here, and we're in a groove now. So I'm excited to see you guys all out on different courts around the state and the region. So yeah, I think that does it for us. For Steve Hewitt, I'm Ethan Fuller and producer Yaz. Thank you so much. Enjoy your holiday vacations if you have time before other games, and we'll see you next time.